So you're confused about what the second Exodus is and Jacob, his servant. Okay. So for the second Exodus, I did a second Exodus in a nutshell video on here that I can link, but my husband did a super exhaustive second Exodus video on YouTube. For Jacob, his servant, I did a pretty huge two-parter on Jacob, his servant, and all of the scriptures that connect who Jacob is, what he'll be preaching, things like that. But I'm just going to try and summarize them both for the sake of this video. So the second Exodus, Israel was scattered into the Gentiles. So the second Exodus is going to be God's gathering of his people again. It's going to be like the first Exodus, but it's going to be even greater than the first Exodus, to the point where people aren't even going to mention the first Exodus, because the second Exodus is going to be even greater. The best scriptures, it's honestly all over prophecy once you see it, but the best places for this scripture, I would say, or for the second Exodus, is Jeremiah 23, Ezekiel 20. Ezekiel 20 is pretty huge in general, actually. I was just going over it there. And it's basically, it talks about how there's this law that was added, or these judgments that were added that were not good, that Israel shouldn't live by. But obviously it's talking about the sacrificial law that they had to live by until the times of refreshing from the Messiah, which is the sacrificial law that is no more because he refreshed the Holy Covenant. So now we keep the covenant and we enter into the righteous judgment of God, which is the teaching of the Ten Commandments. You don't teach the letter of sacrificial law to people anymore. So it talks about that, and then it talks about how when Israel entered into their inheritance after the first Exodus, that they disobeyed the covenant again with the Asheroth pole, which is a Christmas tree, by the way. And then they get exiled and scattered into the nations. And then it goes on to tell you that he's going to gather his people again from whither he had scattered them. And they're all scattered in amongst the nations. Israel is not the Jewish people. The southern tribe is Judah and Benjamin. Israel are within the Gentiles. And Isaiah 44 tells you that in the latter days, springing up out of the Gentiles is going to be Jacob. People surnaming themselves Jacob. These are the people who come out of the church. They realise we need to be keeping the Holy Covenant. They understand the refreshing of the covenant and why the Messiah came. And they preach the true gospel. That's Jacob. That's who Jacob is. Some of his other characteristics are in Jeremiah 10 and 51. The portion of Jacob is not like them who do the Christmas tree and learn the ways of the heathen and the ways of mystery Babylon. The Beatitudes are written to Jacob. It's basically Jacob fulfills the royal law. He understands that the Messiah came to magnify the law and make it honourable. That means loving God and neighbour, which means keeping and teaching the covenant. So they enter into the righteous judgments. They are the meek of the earth that rise up in the latter days. And they're going to rise up and preach and execute righteous judgment. This is Zephaniah 2. At the same time as Gaza being forsaken. That is pretty crazy information, if you ask me. That is literally happening right now. Don't take this as a light thing. Mystery Babylon is about to be destroyed. Gaza is forsaken. Jacob, his servant, is rising up. The meek of the earth. The Beatitudes are being fulfilled. Jacob is executing judgment, and he's hated for it. This is all the fifth seal. So the second Exodus is the gathering of the sheep. It even says he's going to take his people into the wilderness. It's like the first Exodus. It's going to begin in America. So you also want to go to Revelation 12. You're going to see that Satan gets cast down over America, because Revelation 12 is also Isaiah 28. And if you learn the parable of the fig tree, you'll see that it's going to happen in the spring. The untimely figs, the fallen angels, things like that. So, Isaiah 28 and Revelation 12, Satan is cast down over Mystery Babylon, which is America. And at that same time, he's going to preserve the ignorant church and put them in the wilderness in America. And the second Exodus will begin. So they actually are hidden from the face of the devil. They don't actually go under the rule of the Antichrist. They exodus to New Jerusalem, led by New Jerusalem, which is 144,000. Isaiah 66 for the second Exodus as well, and you're going to see it's the 144,000 that actually lead them. And there we go, it actually connects. The 144,000 is Jacob. Jacob is just this measly man, the smallest, the least of all men, just preaching the truth, hated by everyone, called a nobody, is a nobody, not wise in the eyes of this world. It's 1 Corinthians 1. Jacob is going to be risen up out of the Gentiles, preaching the truth. And he's going to confound those who think themselves to be wise, like your pastors and things like that. Again, linking back to Jeremiah 23, which is all about the apostasy of the church and the lying pastors that goes in, and then it goes into the second Exodus. So all of this is just very interlocked. It's amazing. But again, I've got pretty exhaustive videos on my YouTube channel, as do my brothers as well. What more did I want to say about that? Yeah, Revelation 12, Jacob the man-child. Sorry, I am just getting really out of breath when I'm talking so quickly in these videos. Like, I'm super pregnant with a huge belly. Revelation 12, the man-child is Jacob. He's called up to the throne. So Jacob executes judgment. He's hated by everyone, gives up his life to tell everyone to keep the Holy Covenant. He's hated by everyone. So then, before the Antichrist is possessed by Satan and Satan is cast down, the man-child, Jacob, the servant, gets called up to the throne and is glorified and becomes the 144,000. While that's happening, Satan gets cast down. The church goes into the wilderness in America. It's where it begins, and then they begin the Exodus. And the 144,000 return with the Messiah to judge the earth, obviously, with fiery vengeance. It says in 2 Thessalonians 1, 3? I can't remember. And then they lead the Exodus. They lead the second Exodus with the Messiah. So they're judging outside, like in Great Tribulation, but then they're also leading the Exodus. And what's beautiful is that Jacob, the whole time, as he's executing judgment and is being hated for it, he's actually trying to find those lost sheep that God puts on the Exodus. And that's Ezekiel 34. So that's beautiful. So just write down all the scriptures that I've quoted, go and study them out, and check out the links in the comments.